Okay. Well, here I am. Welcome back to the grind. Hey, I've got the 85 BMW in the shop, and I was doing some things to it. A couple of things that it needed. One was the field wire for the, what do you call that? Field wire for the generator or the alternator. I had that hooked up to a hot switch before because it wasn't working right. And what it does, way down there's a red wire right there on the back of the alternator. That's where the field wire goes in. And it senses, when you start the car, it senses a 12 volt impulse from the generator, like the ignition light, the little red light on the dash. Turn that on. So you see that red light over there. Can you see that? Where am I pointing? Yeah, over there, that's the ignition light. So when that thing has got power to it, because this is not generating electricity, then it completes a circuit and sends a little impulse of 12 volts to the regulator inside the alternator. Now I learned all that from Rusty Beauties. Elan at Rusty Beauties, he was going through this one day, and I said to myself, that's the problem I have with my car, and it certainly was. So what was happening was that the little light bulb in there was just, the connection on it was just corroded, and so I took it apart, cleaned it out, and put it back together, and it works fine now. So now I can take away that dead man switch I had on there, and that's these two red wires here. So the second problem was the fuel. This is what you call the master relay, this one right here. And it turns on the relay over here that controls the fuel pump, and another relay down here. This one here kind of just hangs around. That controls the electronic ignition and stuff like that, I think. Anyhow, it needs, when the ignition is on, it needs 12 volts to one of the wires in there. And there's a little underneath the dash here, there's a little thing called a computer control module that has a couple of relays in it, or a computer control relay. Cut two relays in it, one's for the horn and one's for this thing here. And I think it's wrong. I think it's not working. So in the meantime, I hooked it up to a positive out of here, took it for a drive, then got to the shop, got to the garage, and it wouldn't run again. So I put it into a full-time positive one, and it started up, and I drove it home. But it doesn't seem to be, that's not a very, I think it's a dirty connection in there, a bad connection. So I gave it a better connection down here to my hot wire thing, and I can turn on the ignition, turn on my little switch, and it sends electricity to this, and then start and drive the car. But I have to remember to turn it off when I get home. So I'm going to go see if I can order a new relay for underneath there. Anyway, blah blah blah. You can watch and see how things turned out. It actually had a nice little drive up the road in the rain, and things were all right. Everything, there was a little leak in the power steering. It was dripping. I'll check tomorrow and see if it's still dripping, but I don't think it is. I just tightened up a couple of connections there, and it seems to have solved the problem. And otherwise, I'll let it sit here and dry out overnight. And I had it all apart for about a half a year or more, but it's all together now, and driving nicely. A nice drive on the road. Got the new 2023 sticker on there, and it's the inspection is good until July. So I'll drive it around, grocery store stuff. It's a nice car to cruise around in. So there we go. It's back on the road, and I'm quite happy with it. It's nice to drive this thing. So there you go. That's stick around. You can see what I did, and have a little road drive, and please enjoy it. See you then. Bye now. Yeah, Anybody had enough of that wood cutting stuff for a while? I think I have for a bit. Not for long. Anyhow, I'm going to take this out of here. I got a couple of things on the roof. I better not leave them up there. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to bring the BMW in and get it ready for running. I noticed that I haven't got a new updated plate for it yet, so I'll have to do that. This stuff here is from the guys that were doing the windshield. They left things behind. Anyway, I'll get this started up and get it out of here. Hang on, I'll set up a camera. See? Yeah, there it is. That's running again. Actually, it looks pretty good with windows in it and some chrome on it. Still need to get the roof on it here one of these days. That still needs to be finished fixing up, and you can see air through here, so that needs to be finished fixing up. Anyway, that'll get done. And you hear that tick, tick, ticking, that's from the valves, and I've got new valve things coming, like not just the adjuster screws. A couple of them are bad. There we go, looks pretty good. Anyhow, that's good for that. Now move this one in. Yeah, there, I've got my assistant with me today, as always. Now this one here is out, and I'll see if I can get this one started up and move it in. There's a bunch of stuff that I had pending on this car that I figured out over the winter. Just a matter of thinking about it a while. There's a, look at, I'll show you here. When I turn on the key, right? Turn on the key and you see the brake light comes on, which is normal. Where am I pointing? The brake light comes on, which is normal. And then the anti-lock brake thing for the brakes comes on. That light there, that bulb, should be over here in the battery thing. Then I've got this switch down here. Ever since I've put it back together, the switch down here, I turn this switch on and it, see the anti-lock light goes out, eh? Because that's it. It senses, the alternator senses a 12-volt impulse and decides that, oh, I'm a charging alternator now, and it starts charging. If I don't do that, then the alternator won't charge. There's a sensor in the alternator. Now this plug over here, I think, has a little wire that goes to the alternator and sends that signal to it that says, hey, to the field wire, and says, hey, I'm here, and so it'll go. So I have to change that light over to here, and then it might work properly. So that means pulling the dash out of it and blah blah blah. But while I'm at it, I've got to fix up all this stuff down here, which is hanging around, and in here hanging around, because there's also a wire that goes to the what do you call that thing, the relay for the fuel pump and the fuel system, and it goes into a computer over here and stops, but it's still, if you hotwire the relay, then it works fine. So I next have to go and make that wire work properly, and that'll be today's thing. Plus, it looks like there's a leak in the power steering. So let's see if it'll start. Hey, there we are. Gotta kick this stuff out of my way and close the door. And it just starts. It runs like a top, this car, when it runs. Now, open a couple of windows here. Pretty toasty warm out today. And the window is open. Hey. And I'll get it into the shop. This stuff here is kind of there. See, now if I flick this on and off again, and the alternator is charging now. So I'll have to get that sorted out somehow. See if I can do this without running into the tractor, right? Or anything else back there. Objects in mirror are older than they appear. The power steering's working all right. And into the shop we go. This one's fairly big too. A nice sounding car, this thing. I thought I hadn't registered it, but I had. I think it's right about there for going up on the lift. Anyway, there we go. I'll get this stuff here put together, and well, I'll show you as I get along. Anyhow, there, episode umpteen on the, what is it, a BMW 1985 BMW 635 CSI. Doesn't that sound nice? This sounds like a Beamer. Hey, I'll let it run and warm up a bit before I do anything to it. This guy here, I'll leave him out there for now, but I might put him back into this shop after. We'll just see what's up. Because the next thing I want to do is the roof, which I want to put into here and clean it up and get it ready to go. Okay, that's all for now. I'll carry on. Yeah, so here, is that focused down there? That's the light for the ignition thing. And as I was twisting it around when I was taking it out, it started to glimmer a bit, so it's just a bad connection in there. So I'll put it back in and see what happens. It wasn't the light from the anti-lock brakes. That seemed to be the right one in there. Anyway, I'll just put this back in and see what happens. Yeah, now that solves the problem, so watch now. It'll all those lights go out. 14 volts. I don't know if you can see that, but it says 14.1, so it's charging. So this little switch I have here, I don't need it anymore. I can take that out of there, but I still need to figure out the wiring that goes to the, like right now I've got this wire here on the back of that hot wire straight from the battery to make it run, and it's got a green wire that goes into there, comes out of the ignition, goes into a box over there, and that's where the electricity stops because it's hot from the ignition. So I'll see if I can get that sorted out. But I'm glad I've got the charging system working properly. I don't know if you can see it. The doggy likes the pile of wood. I'll see if I can zoom in. You see him over there on the pile of wood? Right there. Anyhow, there you go. Yeah, so that works. That's quite pleasing now. all the lights come on, right, before you try and start it. Then they go out, and that's the way it should be, and it's charging. So that's something I picked up from watching Rusty Beauties. Thanks, Elon. He was wiring up a Triumph. He does lots of Triumphs. TR3, and when he was putting it in, when he was setting up the ignition or setting up the alternator, which he changed from a generator to an alternator, then he said that, you know, this little light that comes on in the dash, right, like this thing here, that little light there, it's when the alternator sees that light, it gets a signal from it, that just a little 12-volt signal on the field wire, and says, hey, here I am, you got to send charging now. And so when that light, if that light's burnt out, then of course it's not going to charge. And or if that light it wasn't burnt out, in this case it was just a bad connection, like so I cleaned up the connection, it works fine now. And when that light's working fine, then everything works right. But I I couldn't figure it out, I didn't know, and I put on this switch down here right to the field wire, so that when I started the car, I'd flick that switch, it'd send the a 12-volt signal to the field wire on the alternator, and then that would tell the alternator, hey, start charging, and it worked fine. But with this light working right now, it works well. That's proper. Good. Now the only thing I have to do is figure out this other thing. I don't know if did I just show you this? Likely I did. Anyhow, I've got it. I've got this. I got this hot wired. There's this thing here. See, there's a green wire comes out of that. Right there, that green wire is the signal wire that says, hey, you gotta connect these other big wires, and that sends power to the ignition system and the water and the fuel pump and all that kind of stuff. So when the ignition turns on, this wire here should turn hot, and it doesn't right now. So I'll see if I can track that down and make it work. And once that's working and everything back together with that, then I'm a happy guy. But it's a green wire, and there's, like, what's this? There's a green wire. That's green and yellow. And out of here, there's a green wire, I think. Yeah. That wire there is green. I was following the ignition. I followed the wiring diagram, and it says that it went in here somewhere, but everything is green. The green everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's green wires. Which one is the one I want? I don't know. It should be off the back of the ignition right here. Let me get up underneath here and have a look. Oh, you always got to be upside down in cars. Oh, coming out of here. There's green wire right there. That one there would be the one I want. In this little harness here. The red wire there have been taped together sometime. Lots of stuff here. Might be just this whole business here. I'll see if I can get this apart, and might be just a bad connection in here somewhere. Okay, I'll get that apart and have a look. Yeah, May 1st, working on the Beamer so I can take it out on the road this summer, right? So now, what happened is here, like I've got a wire hooked in there. This is the, way back when they plugged in the test thing to there. But this wire that comes out of here is positive. It's got power to it when the ignition is turned on. So I'm using that power to go into this relay. It's underneath here. You can't see it anymore because I could. So there's a relay here that controls the fuel pump. So when the ignition comes on, they need power to this. No, the wire used to go through this harness here, and it still does, up through here and into there and into the inside of the car, and I've traced it into the inside of the car in there. And yeah, and there's a connection from here to there. That's wire is good. But then it goes into that little computer in there, and from there, there's no, I don't know where it goes. It's lost after that. I don't see where it comes from or goes to. So I've bypassed it. So when the ignition turns on now, it gets power right here to this, and that'll run to this, and that'll run the fuel pump. The second problem I had was the generator field wire thing wasn't getting its signal from the ignition light, because the ignition light was just the connections on it were fouled. So now it works, and everything, like here's the so I can start the car, right? There's everything on there now, and the battery light goes off when I start it. Anti-lock light stays on when I start it now, and that used to go off. But I guess it'll sort itself out or not. It's part of the computer system too, so who knows what's going on with that. So I'll put all this stuff back together. I can live with the anti-lock light on, because I don't think it really, it's not a big deal. And if I get tired of looking at it, I'll just take the mold out. Okay, that'll solve the problem. So now everything works all right now, except for there's a small leak in the power steering fluid. Don't know where. I'll have to put it up on the lift and check that out. Yeah, because it's down, but not much. And the power steering fluid also supplies power to the power brake system. So that's another thing that happens. This thing here, well, like that's just my electrical cord there because I'm charging the battery. But anyhow, it seems to run all right, and I'll see if I can get it up in the air and check out that power steering business and see what happens there. Okay, that's all for now, and I'll check in with you after a bit. Yeah, this seems to be running all right now. It doesn't, not leaking now. Well, I don't know why. I did tighten up one. There's 2 bolts on the top, 2 banjo screws on the top of the power steering pump, and I was able to just turn one a little bit to tighten it up a bit. But otherwise, it seemed everything was all right. And I'll just check the fluid here for the transmission, which is an annual event. Looks like it's got fluid. Hang on, I'll put you down for a second. Yeah, so the transmission was fluid was full. That's for sure. It's got fluid in here, warm, so something's circulating. So that's all right. And so everything seems to be okay with it now. For now, I don't see any more drippy drips down here. It was dripping pretty good yesterday. Or maybe I've solved it. Maybe not. Who knows? I'll just give it a little while and see. So everything looks okay around the car, and it seems to be everything's working on it. I've got the all the dash put back together. I'm taking for a bit of a spin, but it's raining out. Well, you know, I guess the rain won't hurt it too badly. Anyway, might take it for a bit of a road trip and see how it feels. See how things are on the road. Give me a minute, we'll get set up. Yeah, here we are. Raining, of course. Well, I got to put on my seatbelt. Oh boy. Hang on. Hang on, I'll belt it in here. Forget about stuff like this in my traveling days. We got less than a quarter tank of gas, so I can't go that far. Or maybe I'll just see how it runs, see how things go. There's drive. Oh. And it's warmed up. The temperature gauge is warmed right up there to normal. Windshield wipers are working. Horn works. Anti-lock thing is on, but everything else is off. So that's, I think, a good sign. I'm not too worried about the anti-lock because because I don't think it ever worked. Well, who knows? It might have worked at one time. It might have to just do a bunch of rotating here to figure itself out. Who knows? I got my white gloves on so I won't get greasy hands on the everything in here. And it's good to know that there the blinkers work. It's good to know that the I don't know what I was going to say. Oh, it's all registered and insured and ready, like highway legal. That's what I was going to say. And runs nice. Anti-lock lights staying on forever. And it says 14 volts down there. I don't know if you can read that, but it's got 14 volts. So, everything's good. Speedometer works, going 80 kilometers an hour. And that's good. So I won't be able to tell if it's dripping oil because it'll be water dripping everywhere, eh? Oh well. I've got to get myself a new impact driver. Well, I don't need the driver, I just need a new impact tools, like the, whatever you call that. The screwdriver ends for it, because I've broken all my old ones and I need to adjust this door on this side, and for that you need an impact driver. Yeah, it's driving all right. I'm well, what do you expect, eh? Feels good, everything feels good, everything feels right. So, there we go. I'll just spin around here in the quiet and I'll put it on fast forward after a bit. Blustery day out on the ocean today. I forgot to put the hood down. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, there I got to the service station and don't you know it wouldn't start again. And maybe it was a bit of an airlock in it, or maybe I was running out of gas just when I got there, who knows. But it's going again now in the rain, and I'll this first run break-in season. We'll see what happens when I get to the get home, and I'll shut it off and then it'll start right up again, I'll bet. You never know with old cars. Anyway, I'll see you at home. I was driving along and getting a little bit cold, so I figured I better check and see if the heater works. And don't you know, it works really well. Even the fan works. So that's good. Air conditioner, don't know. It has a new air conditioner pump on it, and I recharged it last year, but I forget, I don't know if it'll work or not. Old air conditioners are kind of tough to get running properly. Old, everything is kind of tough to get running properly. As it turned out, I didn't need the air conditioner last year at all, because it just opened the windows, and it's nice driving with the windows open with this thing. Anyway, there's, I'll just carry on. It seems to be running just fine now. I switched the plug up there from the on with the key to the 12 volt one permanently on. So I'm not sure whether that solved, was that the problem, or if I have to, or if there was just an airlock or something in it. So I'll check that out when we get home. Anyhow, didn't want to check it out there. Here we go. Yeah, so now that the field wire is working correctly, I can unhook that from the back of the alternator, which I'll do one day soon. In the meantime, I hooked up this red wire to the relay here, and it's on a switch, so you just have to remember to turn off the switch or it'll run the dead battery down. Anyhow, that's all right. I don't think this connection here is very reliable because it's fairly dirty in there and it wasn't a very tight connection. Anyway, so it seems to go now, and feel a little bit more confident in it. But I have tracked it down to what I think the problem is the computer control module, which there's a little black box, yeah, underneath the dash here. You can't see it now. Yeah, it's underneath the dash there, a little black box. And it has two relays in it, computer control relay. One of them is for the horn, and one of them is for the, whatever you call that. One of them is for this fuel pump relay right here, the master relay right here. So I think that's where my issue is. So because I took it apart and it doesn't seem to be doing anything, so I'll order up a new one of them. They are available, I've checked, and get that in and see if that'll make things better. But for now, it seems to be all right, and it doesn't seem to be leaking fluid anymore. I don't know. Seemed to have solved that. Maybe it was just a little bit loose, that thing. So there. I'll let it all set for now, and that's good for now. I'm happy with it. Well, next time, when it quits raining, I'll switch the Volkswagen back in here, and it's 5:30 already. It's time for supper. That day went by fast. So there you go. Well, that maybe I stick out a little video, a little driving video. First run of the season. Wasn't a complete success. It wasn't a complete failure. And we had, you know, the shop dog was out here helping. He really helps when I'm trying to put the lift points underneath the car. He gets right in there with you. And so, anyway, I'll put a little video out and see how you like it. And so, first video this year of the BMW 635, 1985 635. And it looks pretty good in here. There you go. I'll see you later. Enjoy it. Yeah, here it is, April 30th already. And tomorrow's the first day of May, I think. Yeah. And here's your Buster report. A bunch of frogs are starting to make noise out here now. Not much else happening. I think there's a duck out there. And Buster's checking it out, as usual. Tide's fairly, well, mid-tide, I guess, today. Yeah, another tough day at the beach. Well, there you go. April 30th, Buster report. How's that, eh?